Right, so first of all, I just want you, when were you evacuated and why?
Well, I don't know exactly when I was evacuated, but I wasn't very old. My mum always told me I ran away to school and they let me stop there, but how true that was I don't know. But I didn't go, to my knowledge, I weren't at school properly. But when the war broke out, I sat in the air raid shelters, and eventually I was frightened to come out. I could see the planes going over, and eventually I wouldn't want to come out of the air raid shelter. So my parents decided that I should have to go be evacuated, you know. So their neighbour next door, one, Mrs. Youngman, she'd got 2 boys up in Glossop, where some of the evacuees went. She got 2 boys in number 3 Mount Street. So when she went up there, she got me accommodation in number 9 Mount Street. And I went there on the train. I don't know who took me. Whether Mrs. Youngman took me, I really can't say, but my parents definitely didn't take me. But I think Mrs. Youngman must have taken me on the train. And I don't remember much about the journey, but I remember going into the house, and it was still got gas lighting up on the ceiling, and that fascinated me to think what that was up there. And anyway, they greeted me. There was Mrs. Hall, who I finally called Auntie Frances, and then Uncle Harry coming from work, and he was all dressed up in, he was a civil servant, and he was all in striped trousers and that sort of thing. He sat in the chair and they said, "Well, aren't you going to kiss Uncle Harry?" And I said, No. I didn't want to, because he was nothing like my dad. I mean, he was all in these strict civil servant clothes, and he had a bowler hat and everything, whereas my dad always had a open-neck shirt and a rugged chest, and nothing like my dad, you know. And anyway, in the house there was another sister, a spinster, Auntie Ethel. She was lovely. She used to take me everywhere, she did. But there was another sister, spinster, who was a cook for the Bishop of Manchester, Dr. Guy Warman it was in those days. And so anyway, that's how I started with them.
And before you went away, had your parents ever met the family?
No.
Or had any contact with them?
No. I think that Mr. Uncle Harry had written a letter saying that he would look after me. And as far as I know, I can't know in black or white or anything, but as far as I knew, that if anything happened to my mum and dad, they were going to keep me there. But I really don't know whether that was right or not. That's only just hearsay sort of thing.
So when you arrived at Glossop, did you go to school there then?
Well, all the Lowestoft of children went to Littlemore School. Everyone went there, and the headmaster was Mr. East, who'd been the headmaster in Lovewell Road, and the teachers were 2 from Lovewell Road. In this Littlemore School, and we all went there.
So did you have other children that you knew there, sort of friends that you knew there when you arrived?
No, I didn't know anyone. But I made friends with people, you know.
That must have been quite scary when you arrived, because you'd only been about sort of 5,
I was only like 5, 6, I think I was, something like that.
So can you remember anything of the train journey or going up there,
No.
how you felt or anything?
No, I don't remember anything.
So
just remember going into the house, and that was different, you know.
Yeah, so you went to school. What else did you do in your sort of free time when you were up there?
Well, Uncle Harry was a church warden at Whitfield Church, and we used to have to go to church twice a day on Sundays, you know. And he got his special seat in the church where he always sat, and I had to sit there as well. I made friends with a girl up the road from us. She was at number 21, I think, Mount Street. She was called Sheila Smith, but she was actually a Lowestoft girl, Sheila Liffen, and they adopted her and changed her name to Smith. And I got friends with her in Mount Street, and at number 19 lived Nola Turner and her family. And I was sort of friends with her. And number 17 was Ronnie Kinder, who I've been friends with till he died this last year. And over the road was Beryl Yates, and her mother worked in the cinema at Glossop, so we used to get in cheap seats, cheap into the cinema with her, you know.
Yeah. So all that time you were away, probably till the end of the war, so you were probably looking at sort of 5 years or so,
Yeah.
5 years. Did you have much contact with your parents, with your family at that time?
My mum came up 2 or 3 times, but that was hard work because my brother was born 1939, and everywhere was in blackout, and then you used to have to keep changing stations at different places that weren't like just to Manchester like it is now, and then change. You had to go one place and change, and another place and change. And people in the forces helped my mum with the suitcase while my mum was carrying my brother, you know.
Yeah.
So that was all in blackout, you see, so that's very hard.
So you only really, did you sort of write to them, or?
No.
No, so you
My dad came up once, and I always remember he said, "Well, Mother," he said, we'll have a lovely, peaceful night tonight." And the one night, the siren went in Glossop, and something had landed on the moors, something doodlebug or something had landed on the moors, and that siren went. That was the one night my parents thought they were having a night's sleep, and they didn't.
Yeah. So do you feel like from being away from your family for, you know, your parents and your brother for all that time, do you feel like that after the war, that was it harder to reconnect with them when you got back home again?
Well, I said a horrible thing, which I've regretted ever since. I said, "My mum, I don't think you want me," because she put all her attention, like from brother as a baby, all during that time, and that seemed to be all on him, you know.
Yeah.
I felt awful what I said, but that's how I felt. And my brother was always ruined by my mother.
Yeah, because he was a war baby, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the people that you lived with, I mean, I know you said when you arrived there it all felt very strange. Did you find that you bonded with them more as the time went on? You know, like you felt you were...
I did Auntie Frances and Auntie Ethel, but not Mr. Harry, Uncle Harry. I couldn't get close to him at all.
Yeah. So what sort of... Do you have any memories of things that you did with your two aunties when you were away?
Well, with Auntie Frances and Uncle Harry, every Sunday night we have to go visit his mother in 39 Ashton Street, and they would be sitting there, and she always cut a little bit of thin bread off and spreaded it with butter and put mustard on it, and I will always remember that. That's a funny thing, but I remember that. And I used to get fed up of sitting in there listening to them talking. So I'd made friends with my brown owl, Enid, who lived up the road, and her father had a beautiful garden in Ashton Street. And I used to go up there, and he would take me round the garden saying, "This is so-and-so Margaret Rose, this is so-and-so Margaret Rose," and expected me every week to know what he told me about these plants. But he was actually the choir master in Whitfield Church. But Enid, I became into the Brownies, and she's my brown owl. And I was friends with her and contacted her when I came home, right until she died.
So I suppose in many ways it was just like a normal childhood, but you were in a different place away from your parents,
Yeah.
and other people did
Yeah.
all the things you would normally have done with your parents?
Yeah, but, I mean, Auntie Ethel was lovely. She took me everywhere and done everything with me. I mean, even when we went on holiday to Blackpool, it was funny there because with it being wartime, I can remember that the place we stayed was somewhere off Ginn Square. I can see it, but I can't think the name of it, up there. And you have to go out in the morning and buy your food with your ration books and take it back to her to cook for your evening meal, you know. And mainly we bought a lot of fish because that was not rationed and that sort of thing. And I remember that, and Auntie Ethel always, she took me into the tower, and I couldn't always, because there was animals in the tower in those days, in cages. Like the Albert, like the lion story.
Albert J. Ramsbottom.
There definitely was lion cages and things in the tower at that particular time.
Were they part of the circus then?
No, they were in cages in a room, like.
So,
And I did go to the circus there in there.
so is that where your love of Blackpool comes from?
Oh yes, and Charlie Caroli and his family with the clowns, and they'd done that for years.
So was he there when you were a
Yeah,
child?
yes, he was then, yeah.
Oh. So did you go many times to Blackpool then?
Yeah, yes, I went with them. Well, a couple of times at least that I can remember, but I just fell in love with it somehow.
So, I mean, Glossop obviously is a very different place to Lowestoft with the beach and everything suddenly being hills and fields. So how did you feel about that sort of?
Well,
Stop this.
Do we want any drinks?
oh yes, please.
So obviously you enjoyed all like the hills and the fields, is it?
Oh yeah, well, Uncle Harry had a sister who lived at in this road where the mills, behind where the mills was, and that was the start of where you went into the Nab, which was the big hill behind them, and we used to go up there and we used to pick wimberries up there. There were little low bushes and they look, well, they're not like a blueberry, but they were little wimberries, as they are. You only see them up that area. And we used to go picking, and I remember I met my mother in my bathing costume on the railway station. And I said to her, I've been wimberry picking. She says, you don't have to tell me that. Apparently I'd got it all over me.
Hello.
I love your face. There we go.
Are you alright?
Yeah, well.
Am I interrupting something?
No, that's all right. I'll pause it there.
Sure?
Yeah, that's fine.
Come back.
No, you're all right. You're all right. So you pretty much enjoyed like normal childhood, like you went to Brownies and all the same sort of things
yeah,
as you
because
did.
through the church I went to Brownies, you know, and Enid was my brown owl. And as I say, they lived in Ashton Street where I used to go visit Uncle Harry's mum every Sunday. And I got really friends with them, and I've been friends with, she came over to Yarmouth on holiday and I went over there and met her. And I've been in contact every Christmas and that until she passed away.
So you were one of the younger ones to be evacuated.
Yeah.
Did you find like the older children sort of looked out for you, or?
No, because, well, in our class we were more or less all the same, roughly the same age, you know. A few bit older, but not that much older.
So did you do a full day at school, or were you just half?
Full day at school, yeah. And we used to play, because Howard Park Road was it got a thing at the top of it, and it's like an alleyway sort of thing all the time. And we used to play up there, and I used to play with boyfriends up there. I made boyfriends. Brian Warpool, Ivan Barber, Albert Roberts. Now, Ivan Barber still lives in Gloucester. Brian Warpool has died. But I've never been able to trace Albert Roberts anymore. What happened to him, or where he went, or anything.
So did you make friends with like the Glossop children as well?
Well, as I say, Nola Turner and Sheila Smith, but she was basically a local girl, and Beryl Yates. Made friends with her, and you know, we all sort of mixed in together, I suppose.
So did lots of the like the children from Lowestoft, did some of them stay there after the war?
Yeah. There was a family, the Patson family, the whole family was there, and the Catchpole family was there. They lived at Collier Brew. The Patsons lived at the bottom, and the Catchpoles lived further up Collier Brew. And Joe Long lived the other side, and we used to see him when we visited Glossop, because he was the brother of one of the ladies who used to go up there, but he died the last time we went up there.
So can you remember, you know, when the day like the war ended and what happened and...
Well, there's a lot in between there that I can tell you, because they had the Glossop floods, and I was up at Manor Park when the floods was on, and I come rushing down the road to get home, and as you were rushing, the storm was that bad, some man pulled me into one of the shops there and shielded me till it eased off a bit, and then I had to make the way up Howard Road to go back home to Mount Street, and all the road was higgledy-piggledy, and the river which ran past the mill at the other side of me was all overflowing, and there was a boy swept off a bridge in Glossop, just off the High Street in Glossop, and he drowned, and the Ward family lived in St Mary's Road, and we arranged a little show in their back garden with people paying to come and see us, and we give that money, we take it down to the town hall and give that money to the mayor towards the Glossop Relief Fund.
Oh.
Yeah. Don't know what the concert was like, but we neighbours paid to come and see us.
And, so, I suppose you were there till the end of the war, so
Yeah.
can you remember like when the war ended and what that felt like?
Well, I remember all this VE Day thing, which was when we started coming home and that sort of thing. But on VE Day, I went to Whitfield Church, and I was shown up the stairs, and there's some like bells you pull by hand, like they weren't the big ones that go up. They got them there, but these were little ones you pull by hand, and they let me help ring them on VE Day in Glossop. That's one of my memories. And when I went back to Glossop, she showed me where the steps was, and then I would never get up those steps to do it anymore.
So when it was time to come home after the war, how did you get back then?
I don't really know.
So your foster family who looked after you during the war, they must have been sort of quite heartbroken when you left.
I suppose so. I don't really know. They loved Glossop because they used to come on holiday after the war. They used to come and stay at Mum and Dad's, and have a holiday. And they loved Gloucester. So when he retired, they bought the house in Harold Road. And she died in 1968, and he died later. Don't know when. I mean, my brother took over Uncle Harry, and I wouldn't have known where he was, and he's Sheila Goff, who worked at the home, told me he was in that home, and I went down with the women's group from the Methodist Church one evening, and I see him there, and I treated him to a pint of beer, and he cried his eyes out, and I said, well, that's your fault that you've neglected me, you know, because he'd gone up one side, and then on the day of his funeral, because I didn't know he'd died, but Sheila Goff come and told me he'd died, and I sat in my front room, and from a bay window I see the funeral go from my brother's house. When I asked my brother how long it was that Uncle Harry died and anything, he says he don't remember. He just didn't know nothing about it, and I know for a fact that funeral went from his house because I saw it.
So you always kept that connection with the family,
Yeah,
even after the war?
yeah. Yeah, till they died. I mean, after Auntie Frances died, that did ease off, you know, because I kept with Auntie Frances and she joined in different things with us, you know.
So when you've been back to Glossop since, does it feel like going home, or?
Well, yeah, you know, that Mount Street is, that looks strange to see the cobblestones, because you don't remember it as cobblestones, you know, but they were, and I mean the milk used to come round, and they used to have it on the back of these thingies, and they'd be big churns, and they would take a ladle out and ladle your milk out, you know, from these churns, and because they used to come up the streets and that sort of thing. But you don't remember them sort of things till you go back and see. I thought, oh, I don't remember these, but I can still find my way all around Glossop, right to Whitfield Church and different places, you know. And one of the Catchpole sisters kept the pub at the top near Whitfield Church, and that's where one of the pubs that Mr. Harry used to visit. That's what they called him, Mr. Harry. I mean, he had a brother Ellis, and he was a completely different type of person. He was more like my dad would be, you know, he was a different, rougher type of person. I don't know where he worked or anything, but he was different, completely different to Uncle Harry, and yet they're brothers.
So where would you, if you went back now, what sort of places would you say were special to you that you would want to revisit again?
Well, I've now lost my last contact, which was with Ronnie Kinder when he died this year. He's my last contact with Glossop, but every different places mean a lot to me. I mean, Howard Davis Park, or Howard Park I should say, that was lovely. I don't remember much about Manor Park, but Howard Park, I loved that. And I used to go to Whitfield Church. I went back and went in Whitfield Church and had a look round. A lady opened the church so we could go, in a couple of other evacuees could go look in the church and see, you know, where I'd been all my life, and that is precious to me, you know.
So when you have all like your evacuee meet-ups, how does that feel? Is it like old family coming together again? Or?
Yes, because we all got something in common. I mean, one fella, he goes back to Glossop an awful lot because he drives, and he goes back with his family an awful lot, and he runs on about different things, and because I know a lot of what he's talking about, you know. But I mean, some of the others who go to the evacuees were in different areas. Some were in Clown, some were in, I mean, your dad was in Barbara, he stayed in Barbara, and he had a good home to start with, where the pits were. He used to, the laneway was the alleyway was where all the pit houses was, that's where he stayed, and he had a good home. Well then, the lady's husband had to go into the forces, and so she couldn't take your dad anymore, and he went somewhere else, and he had a bad place, so then he went back home. And his brother was evacuated up that way, and he had a bad place, and they eventually went back home.
Yeah. I suppose it was probably quite mixed experiences from a lot of the people.
Oh, some of them had horrible. I mean, there was 2 girls I know went into what they call Bether Arthur, and that's, I don't know what it is in these days, but there was, you know, if no one else want you, that's where you were put. I mean, 2 girls didn't have homes, they went into Bether Arthur. And there's another lady I know, she lives up Pakefield now. She went in a place and she didn't like where she was, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that must, if you had a bad place, that must be
Yeah.
about 5 long years, really, or...
Well, some of them come home out of it, the parents brought them home even though the war was on.
Yeah. Do you feel like, having been evacuated, do you think that sort of changed you as a person, or was part of your...
Yeah, it did, because it made me more educated, I think, than I would have been if I was here. Because their way of living was different to my family's way of living, you know. I mean, I won't compare them because I had the love from my dad and that, whereas they're...
Tell us some of your tales from...
Yeah. Well, when my dad was up there visiting one day, he decided we went for a walk and into the countryside, and he started to pick some blackberries. It weren't a lot, but he started to pick them. And there was 2 men saying to me, "Oh, if you go over there into that field, there's loads of blackberries." So my father went over there and started picking the blackberries. And then all of a sudden the farmer come off and told me he was trespassing. Well, I cried because I thought trespassing meant he was going to prison. And anyway, my dad offered the farmer these blackberries back, and he said, "No, you can keep them." So we took them home, and Auntie Frances stood them, and I wouldn't eat them because I thought my dad was going to prison. That was that one. And another day, I took them for a walk up the Nab, which is a big hill there, or the hill mountain there. And oh yes, I knew the way. Anyway, got lost, and there was a man unloading rubber tyres at the top of the Nab for to do the war thing, something to do with setting a light or something. I don't know what it's for. And anyway, he said he was then going back, and we had to go get into the back of this lorry and go down the moor in this lorry, in Newton lorry, back into Glossop and to get bottom again. And that was funny, that was. Well, it weren't funny at the time, but... What's it like?
There you go. Right. So, do you think that, like, that time away as an evacuee, do you think that changed you as a person? Do you think you
Yeah, definitely did, to a certain extent, because I was brought up in more a richer family, I would say, than what I have at home. But I didn't have the love there that I had from my dad. And you know, without Auntie Ethel, I think that would have been different, because she used to take me everywhere. She worked in the cotton mill, she did, and so she used to get, because all clothes were rationed, but she used to get remnants of material, and Auntie Frances would make me into dresses for me, so I had some lovely clothes, lovely dresses. But going to church, they had what they call a Whit Sunday parade, and I had to even wear white gloves for that parade, you know, it was posh sort of thing, and oh, just so, you know, whereas at home I wouldn't have been like that.
So it sounds to me like you were doted on a little bit because you were their child.
Oh yeah, I suppose so, yeah, because Auntie Ethel, yes. I mean, it broke my heart when I didn't know what had happened to her. I was put into the neighbour's house one day, in Mrs. Mr. Bradbury's house, and did not explain why, you know, and I slept there, and then got sent back home again, and then I was sent into Mrs. Bradbury's house again, and I didn't know what had happened, you know, but Auntie Ethel was no longer on the scene, and in my mind I realised something had happened to her, but no one had ever told me that. And after the war, when I came home, I actually sent away for her death certificate to find out, you know, more about her and what she died of, when she died. Because she was lovely to me.
It's kind of strange they didn't even explain to you.
No, I didn't explain. I was just put in at the neighbour's house, you know. On the other side of the house, Mr. Hargreaves used to live, and he had a piano in there. I used to go in and play it as such, and he used to go on, Margaret, play me a tune, and I used to hammer away at this piano, you know, just any old hour. And he'd put up with me for a little while, and then I'd go back up again, you know.
So although there were sort of good things that, you know, there were good memories as well.
Oh yeah, there's some good memories, but some nasty ones as well.
Yeah. So when you were up in Glossop, other than the time your mum and dad visited, was that the only air raid you had?
Yeah. Yeah. That was only a air raid warning, you know, and that was all. But you know, Manchester was bombed badly during the war. Manchester was really bombed badly.
So did you go into Manchester when you were?
Yeah, I did. They took me in to see Father Christmas in Lewis's in Manchester. And he said to me, my name, I said, Margaret Rose. So he said, what do you want, Margaret Rose, for Christmas? I said, nothing. He says, nothing? So I said, no, nothing. So he says, why? I said, Father Christmas from Lowestoft has come for me. And my dad had got me a cardboard doll's house, because nothing was available in those days, and my dad made the furniture for it, you know, because he used to work with wood, and he'd made me the furniture for this cardboard doll's house, you know.
And you've still got all the wooden dolls?
Yeah, I've still got them all, yeah. And I went to, the same time I went to another Father Christmas at a different place, and I said to Auntie Frances, that's a woman, that's Mother Christmas. Well, I suppose when you think of it, men were short of in the war because they were in the forces, and this definitely was a woman in this Father Christmas outfit, this Henry's at the other shop was. And, you know, them sort of things last in your mind. And I went to my first pantomime there, Jack and the Beanstalk. That was absolutely brilliant. I've never seen anything like it in my life, you know. I had a big beanstalk come up on the stage and that sort of thing.
So I suppose a lot of the things that you've loved throughout your life go date
to
back
them,
to
yeah,
that, because
yeah.
they're probably things you wouldn't have experienced
Yeah,
at home.
no, I wouldn't. I mean, I love pantomime now. And I love circuses because basically I used to go to Blackpool Circus, you know.
Yeah, and obviously you love of Blackpool.
Yeah,
all
I
this
love
stuff.
Blackpool, yeah.
Yeah, so
And the organ music and that sort of thing.
it all probably started there because it's probably something you would never have experienced
No, I
otherwise.
wouldn't have done, no, because I wouldn't have known all that sort of thing from Lowestoft. Because, I mean, our holidays, Dad bought us a runaway ticket, you know, and we used to go out for days, sort of thing. And I know we went to Southwold one day, and we had tea or something, and my brother knocked over a cup of tea on the tablecloth, and they charged my dad to launder the tablecloth. You know. And when we went to Saxmundham, there was a shop there that used to have beautiful donuts in it. We used to go there and get a donut when we went to Saxmundham. I mean, that shop is no longer there. I'll look through it. Times I've been walking through Saxmundham, I'll look, but I can't see that shop anymore. But I can remember that, you know. We used to have these days out with these runaround tickets. That was our holidays then.
Yeah, I suppose because your Uncle Harry and then they'd got a lot more money, so
Oh, they were well off, yes. I mean, he was in a top job, civil servant, top job, you know.
So did the Auntie Frances work, or did she?
No,
work?
no, she didn't work. Ethel, as I say, worked in the mills. But Ethel, the Auntie Amy, was a cook for the Bishop of Manchester, and they took me there one day to see her. And I sat in the garden, and Guy Warman's wife came round and spoke to me. Then she come back again, and she brought me my little Toby jug, old Mother Gam, which I've treasured from that day onwards. And Amanda's taken care of it now for me.
Oh, that was kind of her.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an old Mother Gam is like a lady with her arm as the umbrella, you know. And man, I've had it all my life since they gave it to me, and I give it to Amanda as treasure for.
Is there anything you want to add that we've not sort of covered in our conversation about your time away?
I mean, I still love Derbyshire to this day. You know, I love the seaside, but I love Derbyshire. You know, just to go back there, it's lovely. When we used to go back with Evacuees, because Chris Brooks would take us round to where everyone stayed and that sort of thing, and show. And even then, that looked different to what was in your mind. You know, like the house looked different. Like it's a terraced house, but that looked, the doors and that looked different. You know, and that sort of thing. But we used to go round and see all different sites, and the wells were addressed, you know. Just loved Glossop and Derbyshire. I should miss it, because Chris don't take any more anyway. But I've got lovely memories anyway. Even though I was away from home, you know. I was lucky, I had a good place in my life.
Did you ever feel homesick while you were there?
No, because you don't, at a child's age like that, you don't really know things about your home, do you?
No. I suppose you just adapt to it. And
I mean, you know you've got mum and dad, of your real mum and dad, but you don't know much about home life, not at that age.
No. But at that time, did you feel like you wish you could have stayed with your mum and dad, or?
No, it's only when I went home I felt unwanted, because my brother was born 39, and because my mother had him all the war, you know, and doted on him, and I just felt unwanted when I got back home. Which is probably just me, but...
Yeah, well, it probably took a bit of adjustment for them as well to have you back, and you change a lot in 5 years. So
Yeah. I wouldn't swap my dad for Uncle Harry any day.
No.
I mean, he was a typical citizen, black bowler hat, you know. And at the pub they called him Mr. Harry. I mean, everyone else was the Christian actor. He was old Mr. Harry, you know. Because he's that bit posher, you know, than everyone else.
Yeah, because I can see that rubbed off on you.
No, but that's something in my life that's happened. And
I mean, I can't see that it would happen again this day and age.
no, nowhere would be safe these days. I mean, when you think Glossop's so near Manchester, and Manchester was blitzed to hell, you know.
I think as well people wouldn't muck in like they did then, I don't know.
Well, when I think myself now, I couldn't have let you and Christine and David go as young kiddies away from me, you know. So what my mum must have felt, I don't know. Because I know myself, I wouldn't want, like, my children to go away. Even if it was for their safety, I would be heartbroken.
Yeah.
It's a big decision to make.
Yeah. In some ways that's probably real love, that they put their safety before.
Yeah, I suppose it is, but I mean, I love you a lot, but that'd still break my heart to part with you to someone strange, you know, if that was like that when you were little.
Well, thank you for telling me
That's
your
okay.
stories.
Well, that in everything, I suppose, but I'll remember things that
Well, if you think of anything
Yeah.
else, you carry on.
Thank you.